Welcome back to Real Sports Talk, home of the realest sports talk. I'm your host, Run It Up Rue, and today on our off-season All 32 special, we got the Cincinnati Bengals on deck. We talking everything you need to know, how they're going into the offseason, what they need to do to get better, and how is that 2025 season looking. And we're going to do a little soft projection. Plus, we got a live mock draft for y'all, first 3 rounds. Let's get it. The Cincinnati Bengals had a lot going for them going into this season. They had high hopes and a lot of expectations. Unfortunately, those expectations were not met, and they ended the season with a 9-8 record, 3-3 in the division, ultimately finished third in the AFC North. When it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals, I mean, Joe Burrow had a crazy season. The offense was clicking for the most part. It just seems like a team that just can't get over the hump. They can't seem to get out their own way. And I'm not sure why, but for the last couple of seasons, the Cincinnati Bengals have been getting off to a very slow start. Now, is that due to head coach Zach Taylor and his preparation for the team during the offseason, even during the preseason, allowing his team and his starters to get some play, some action, allowing their team to have some chemistry, some gel, maybe to use that film in preparation for the regular season to show guys, even the younger guys, maybe even some veterans who are not doing things how you want them done. But you're not allowing yourself that grace when you don't give these guys any tick, when you don't give them any playing time. So the Bengals, they missed the playoffs for the second straight season. So with a quarterback like Joe Burrow, this team, they just came from back-to-back AFC conference championship games. They had a Super Bowl appearance. So you expect a lot more from a Joe Burrow-led Cincinnati Bengals. They were expected to make the Super Bowl, if not at least, appear in another AFC championship game. That ultimately did not happen. But 2025 is a new season. We'll see what they'll be able to do. Now, another problem that Zach Taylor has is his handling of contract disputes. He doesn't seem to, and I know he works for an organization that does not like to spend money, but when he comes out and publicly says things, it ends up kicking him in his foot. But this is how Zach Taylor is feeling about the end of the season for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Just start by saying I'm proud of the way that our guys finished the season, winning 5 in the straight. Very proud of how they stuck together and did that. With that being said, we had higher expectations and standards for what we achieved this year, and that'll certainly drive us moving forward to meet those expectations and those standards that we have for ourselves.
Okay. All right. And I understand that sounds like status quo. They came off a very frustrating season, and next season will be even more frustrating if they're not able to get Joe Burrow's key weapons back into place. Like I just mentioned, his handling of contract disputes, although he's not the final say within the organization about where they spend the money. When he opens his mouth, like for Jamar Chase, he during the preseason, he let it be known that the reason why Jamar Chase wasn't practicing was due to protect him during the contract negotiations with the Cincinnati Bengals. And that ultimately just was not the case, where Jamar Chase just was not practicing because he did not have that contract in place. So it's surprisingly that the Bengals and Chase didn't reach an agreement on a new contract at the end of last season. And Chase went on to earn a triple crown. He went on to earn a triple crown this year, leading the NFL in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. This is going to cost the Bengals because today's price isn't yesterday's price, right? Today's price is not yesterday's price. They should have worked harder to get that deal done. It has been kind of the mantra in Cincinnati to not be able to get the big deals done. They had notable contract disputes with Joe Mixon the last season. He ended up going to the Houston Texans, and Jesse Bates went on to the Atlanta Falcons. And T. Higgins, he played last season on a franchise tag that was worth $21.8 million. If the Bengals tag him again, that will be a 20% increase, a 20% raise, worth about $26.2 million for one season. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. We're always late to the contracts. We always pay more than we should have paid because we do this exact thing. We play around, we make players prove it. And you know, Higgins has a great season. You got Jamar Chase being a triple crown in the NFL. We talking real money. And when you're talking real money, you have to play the game smartly. And that's not what they've been doing lately. Now, is that Zach Taylor's problem? Is that his fault that he's not getting these contracts done? I don't necessarily believe that. I think if Zach Taylor had his way, Jamar Chase would have already been signed, and so would have T. Higgins would have been signed. And I think Joe Mixon would still be in the building. They might have let Jesse Bates walk just because you got to save money elsewhere. But even if you kept Jesse Bates and let Joe Mixon walk, how about you just keep your guys? We're not talking about players that's coming from other teams. These are players that you've hit on in the draft. That is where you're supposed to spend your money. That is where you're supposed to spend your money. You got these guys through the draft. They executed at a high level for your franchise and have earned what they're asking for. Now, you have to be able to use foresight and get ahead of these contracts, right? Because you know what's in-house. That's the difference. We're not talking about players who were recently on other rosters. This are players who are homegrown. You've watched them from offseason to regular season to playoffs to Super Bowl runs. Contracts should have already been in place. It should have already been in place. Like I said, you should have had Joe Mixon still in-house. He didn't even want to go. But he went where the bag was. You can't blame him for that. And so did Jesse Bates. I'm going to chuck you the deuce. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about my worth. Y'all played in Jesse Bates' face over and over again. I think it was like 2 seasons. You played with him in his face. And that's why he chucked the deuce. But, I mean, you can only ask Joe Burrow to be that guy so much. I mean, I know I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I just mentioned that. They put a lot on Dak Prescott plate. And for Joe Burrow, they do the exact same thing. I think these organizations need to wake up, and your good quarterback, if you have a great quarterback, that's even more reason to put people around him. Especially on a rookie deal. You have to identify who you have, and then you have to put players around him as fast as possible so you can execute on a rookie deal and then go forward with it. Because you know he's going to earn another contract. Joe Burrow has been that guy since he came out of college. So having a Jamar Chase, having a T. Higgins, having a Joe Mixon, having a Jesse Bates on defense, because your defense fucking sucked this season. It could have used Jesse Bates' leadership. It could have used Jesse Bates' knowledge of your foundation, of your philosophy for your defense. You could have used that, but you didn't. We're going to get to the defense. Don't worry about that. But for Joe Burrow, he had one hell of a year passing. The offense struggled to run the ball consistently to match his energy. They consistently struggled to match Joe Burrow's energy. Now, Joe Burrow was still able to pass for 4,918 yards, 43 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions, a QB rating of 74.7. The Bengals' explosive offense ranked second with passes of 40-plus yards with 12 of them things. Bengals finished third in the NFL with 100 third down conversions. He was unstoppable. Unstoppable. And you refuse to put pieces around this guy. I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it. The run game. Let out of Joe Burrow's mouth. I want you to listen. Listen to what he said.
The pressure on me to be great. You know, that's part of playing quarterback in the NFL. You know, I have to play to the absolute peak of my ability every week for us to go and win. And you know, some games I've done that, some games I haven't. And so, you know, I'm just trying to be as consistent as I can from the team, try to take care of the ball better, and go from there.
Is that sustainable, though? I mean, for you to basically have to play perfect each week in this division, do you feel like that's a sustainable way?
It's not.
Play football?
I feel like I can do anything.
I mean, I love the answer, and I believe him. I love the answer, and I believe him. But it's not sustainable. It's just not. It's not sustainable. And I think anybody who's a fan of any franchise knows that their quarterback having to be the end-all, be-all, every single play, every single down, every single game is not sustainable. And you don't ask that from a quarterback of Joe Burrow's caliber. I'm sorry. You just don't ask that of that guy. You do everything you can. There's no stone left unturned. You find the pieces, you find the guys, you execute. Right now, I'll be honest, Cincinnati is fucking up. Joe Burrow should already be a Super Bowl winning quarterback by now. He should have already have won that thing. He should have already at least had 2 appearances in the Super Bowl. Now, I know he's been hurt. He's been hurt, guy, as well. But guess what? That was due to the offensive line. It wasn't because bad decision making. It wasn't a blindside hit. We're not talking about individual things. This man, I remember him being versus the Tennessee Titans in a playoff game. I forgot, it was a franchise record. It was an NFL record of how many times he was sacked. And he still won the fucking game. He's the ultimate gamer. He's the ultimate gamer. But he can't be the end-all, be-all. They need to wake up. Cincy, wake the fuck up. And when it comes back to this run game, it was ranked 30th in the NFL. Now, Chase Brown's stats was very similar to Joe Mixon's in Houston this season. But if Chase Brown is going to be the guy, they're going to need to bring a running mate with him. Chase Brown averaged 61.9 rushing yards a game. 990 rushing yards on the season with 7 touchdowns. I'm not going to say the 7 touchdowns is bad. He almost had 1,000-yard rushing. I think Cincinnati has their high passing offense. So I understand him getting his when he could get his, but they need to back him up with some substance. Once again, can't be the end all be all. The days of having a one down every down running back, that's really closing. That's becoming a thing of the past. Now you want to have a dual back situation in your running back. You want to be in your running back room. You want to have a lot more than one guy getting, carries, toting the rock. Because the thing about the run game is you want to keep everybody else fresh. So if that running back isn't able to run at that same level of intensity, play in and play out, get himself up off the ground, turn around and do it again. If he's not that guy, but he's a guy who can get yards, he can do this, then pair him with somebody. So they're not tired. Run the ball a little bit more. I think that would be awesome for Joe Burrow if they ran the ball more. But they need, Chase Brown, he needs some help because Zach Moss, he averaged 30.3 rushing yards per game. That's not enough. Khalil Herbert was worse. He averaged 14.3 rushing yards per game. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? Offensively, Joe Burrow was the end-all, be-all for the Cincinnati Bengals. Going forward into the 2025 season, 2026 season, that cannot be the case. That cannot be the case. They need to first retain the guys. They need to retain the guys. Okay? They need to get Chase his bag. They need to get Higgins his bag. All right? That's what they need to do. Offensively, they need to run the damn ball some more. They need to run the ball. If you look at the teams that made it to the Super Bowl, that made it late into the playoffs, they ran the ball. Everybody knows Joe Burrow can pass, but it only takes one to get an interception. It only takes one not giving you the 1 second you need from the offensive line to now you out because you done got sacked from the blind side. Sometimes you have to it's a numbers game. It's an odds game. You have to run the ball. 2 things win championships, defense and run game. There's a reason why they say that. But the defense is ultimately why they lost. Ultimately. Look, we got John Cena with the hefty bag. It says Tiger Trash for the Cincinnati Bengals. 11 defenders doing nothing. Ain't protecting shit. They were trash. They were definitely the worst defense pretty much in the league. They was ranked 31st in yards allowed. 21 and 21st in points. They fired their defensive head coach, obviously, and Lou Anarumo. They let him go in replace for Al Golden. It was a very underwhelming coaching search. I think he's already familiar with the organization. But ultimately, the defense was horrendous. 32nd in yards per play. 31st average points allowed. 31st yards per rush. 31st total yards allowed. I mean, you're not going to win any games like that. You're not going to win any games like that. Now, is it just the defensive coordinator's fault? No. Guys got to go out there and do their job as well. But it starts from the head. It starts from the head down, and the head of the defense was Lou Anarumo, and he had to go. And so right along was his assistants, I'm sure, out the door. Now, Al Golden, I'm not about to say that he's going to be a godsend. I don't know the guy. I didn't do any research into his coaching history or even if he had any familiarity with the Cincinnati Bengals. But I will tell you this. Anybody would do better than Lou Anarumo, obviously, with this position here. So they are already in the ground. They can only get better from here. And we're going to see what that defense, that's going to be the key thing this offseason. I think they're going to throw a lot of money at the defense. I think they're going to throw a lot of draft picks at the defense, trying to fix that because you have a Joe Burrow on the other side. You have a Jamar Chase on the other side. And if they're smart, they'll have a T. Higgins as well. But I think they played with T. Higgins too much now. He did get the bag for that one season. So things can be we can reconcile. They can definitely fix things. But I ultimately think at this point in this organization and how they spend money, T. Higgins is out the door. He's definitely out the door. He's going to be the biggest free agent that they have, but not the only one. Not the only one. Defensive tackle BJ Hill, defensive end Joseph Osaye, as well as tight end Mike Gesicki. Now, some of the notable potential cuts, Sam Hubbard. I think they'll be smart to bring him back. If not, I think it'll save some money cap wise. I think they may want to get younger at the position, but he's one hell of a defensive player. This is not the NBA because I would do a sign and trade or something. I'm not a fan of guys walking and you're not getting anything for them. I mean, if I was running an organization, contracts, I'm trying to get ahead of them. That's the name of the game. And for contracts going out the door, I'm trying to get ahead of them. There was one thing that in the moment I didn't understand. But now as a grown man looking at the league for what it is and understanding kind of the business part of it, the New England Patriots, Bill would get rid of guys a year early rather than a year late. And I think that was for multiple reasons. One, it did the player right to where he could potentially earn a bigger bag with a good season on that new team. And it also gave them a higher compensation because he wasn't in the dumps when you were getting rid of him. You got rid of him a year early. But that takes foresight. You have to be able to see those things. You have to understand what you're trying to do and have an actual plan on how you're going to get there. And then everything else falls in place. But too many times with the Cincinnati Bengals, you see these guys that are homegrown talents and, they're either contracts are either coming too late or you're not utilizing them in the best way possible. Like a trade. Like if Hubbard walks, why didn't you trade him? Why didn't you seek a trade, before the trade deadline to get some compensation back? That's what at the end of the day, I'm going to get compensation from you. Either it's play because I've re-signed you or it's compensation through draft picks because I'm letting you go. And I may have to watch you lead the league in sacks on another team for 1 year before you ultimately start the dip. But that contract is off the books and my compensation is what it was. So if they bring Hubbard back, I'll be interested to see that. I would be in favor of that just because the kind of leader he is. He loves Cincy. And I think he's going to play hard for that team. And I think the last thing Hubbard wants to do is go to another team or ultimately retire and they get their act together and Joe Burrow go to another Super Bowl. That's what the fuck we all do it. That's what they do it for. Yeah, the money and the lifestyle is good, but ultimately these guys are competitors. If you told Hubbard that if you told Sam that, you could come back, we're going on this Super Bowl run, but I need you to take X amount of money, you know what I'm saying? As long as it's respectable, I think he would do that. Just to stay familiar, his family don't have to move and uproot themselves from what they know. and you're able to play the game that you love. But it'd be interesting to see if they keep him or Alex Kappa right here. I wouldn't mind keeping Alex Kappa as well. I think most of their money in in cap space, they have to use some of that, if not some of that, to retain their guys. See, but yo, you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins contracts in your face. That does you no favors. That does you no favors. You know, the last thing Jamar is going to do is go out there and play with that same contract after being a Triple Crown. No. His agent's not going to let that happen. It's not even smart to hit T. Higgins with a franchise tag. That's not smart. That's not smart. Even if you said we were going to the Super Bowl. So, Alex Kappa, I think he's out. I think he goes finds his little bag somewhere else. That's my opinion. Next is defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins. He could be I think he's going to be a cap guy. I think he may call it a career, or he'll look for a contender. He'll look if he can get on a contenders roster. I think he sticks around. But if he can't, I can see Sheldon calling it a career. It's one heck of a career. But I think he is a cap casualty. But they have money to burn. They got money to burn. They got 46.5 mil in cap space. Now, is that a lot of that gonna be used to retain their guys? Most likely, but I also think that they can fluctuate, with some contracts and reworking some deals and stuff like that. But they got 46.5 million in cap space, so they got some money. They're far from broke, but they have to utilize that in the smartest way possible. If they were, why are these wide receivers backing up on you like that? You got defensive players you need to retain. Who's looking at these contracts and say, yo, let's just wait on everybody? I mean, you're not giving nobody the bag. You're just gonna wait on everybody. And with that, I mean, I just don't see how you just turn around and say, oh, okay, I'm gonna resign everybody. It just doesn't make sense if T comes back. It just does not make sense. You waited too late. And I think he's an excellent number 2 to Jamar. So it's unfortunate. And I don't see the secondary wide receiver next season being as good as T. I don't see that. He's a high-level second. You don't really get those. Those don't really even hit the market. Understand that those don't really hit the market. Now, there's some possible free agents out there that they could be looking for. The Julian Blackmans, the Tevin Jenkins to fix up, a little bit of that offensive line. Julian Blackman is a strong safety. You got Paulson Adebo, cornerback. You got some guys there. You got some Dalton Reisner, left guard. They got 46.5 million. Like I said, most of that's going to use to retain their guys. But they could go after my guy, Osa Odigizua. We took the lumps as a Dallas Cowboys fan. We took the lumps for the years of, his growing pains. And now he's becoming one of those premier defensive tackles. He's a 3-tech. Dallas needs a 1-tech. So it'd be just like Dallas to lose at 3-tech, but get a 1-tech. We tried to draft the 1. I'm not going to get into all that. Dallas is coming up. But Osa Odigizua, he's definitely coming into his own right now. So if you guys were to grab him off of us, I'm going to be hating. But I know you guys got one of those guys. Like I said, he's coming into his own right now. And you could also go for a guy like Chase Young. Once in my division, the NFC East, has moved around a little bit. He's been played it with the 49ers. Where else Chase has played? He's played with the Commanders, and now he's out there with the Saints. You guys could bring in Chase Young, still very young, talented. I would say he's in his prime right now. So getting a Chase Young would be good. I think he's looking for a home. I think he's probably tired of moving around, but he's looking for that bag for sure. And you guys probably could get him. The next guy would be a Dre Greenlaw, linebacker, San Francisco 49ers. He's a do-it-all linebacker, to be honest with you. Everybody talks about Fred Warner, rightfully so. He's a guy. But Dre Greenlaw is a monster. He's somebody opposing running backs, tight ends, they lose sleep over, not to mention offensive coordinators, right? They hate running into a Dre Greenlaw. The guy's all over the field. Don't believe me? Go look at any one of his clips on YouTube. The guy's all over the field. If the San Francisco 49ers are not able to retain Dre Greenlaw, he is going to be a premier target on the offseason, the free agent market. Best believe that. Now, you also have veteran Brandon Sheriff. He's a veteran guy. He's been a couple of places, Washington, I believe, as well. Now he's with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Maybe he thinks about calling it a career. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's ultimately looking for one more payday. He's a guy. He's a reliable guy on the offensive line. A journeyman, but a very quality journeyman lineman. He does his thing more than a backup for sure. He's a starter. He just got some age on him, so I'm not really sure where his mindset at. I know the bag. Everybody wants the bag. He doesn't need the bag. You know what I'm saying? But he wants the bag. I think he really wants more to play than to the money, but it will have to be respectable. So those are some things that I think. Those are some players that I think Cincinnati could be taking a look at this offseason to try and bring in, shore up some offensive line depth as well as turn a straight overhaul of that defense. Y'all let me know in the comment section if y'all think of any other players that Cincinnati could possibly be looking to obtain in free agency. If the players that I mentioned, if you like those ideas to add to your Cincinnati Bengals, let me know in the comments there. And right now, their future right now is in. So it's draft talk now. They got the first round, 17th pick. Second round, 49th pick. Third round, 81st pick. And then the 4th, 5th, and 6th is to be determined. Now, some of their draft needs is cornerback, offensive guard, defensive tackle, tight end, and center. Now, some of their draft targets at number 17 could possibly be edge Shamar Stewart. He's a big physical. He brings versatility to the lineup at multiple spots. He could be a pick at 17 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Try and get to that quarterback will be definitely in Cincinnati's game plan. Next would have to be one of my fan favorites. One of my favorites in the draft is Derek Harmon from Oregon. He's arguably the most dynamic pass rushing defensive tackle in this draft. He's a guy that's going to collapse that pocket, make it really hard for the quarterback to stand still. He's going to either have to break out to his left or right, ultimately sending him straight to one of your defensive edges, hopefully, or a blitzing linebacker. But, y'all tell me in the comment section if y'all like Derek Harmon for y'all pick at number 17. Next would be James Pierce Jr., edge from Tennessee. He's 6'5", 243, lean, ultra quick. His 18.7 pressure rating ranks second in FBS, resulting in 7.5 sacks. He's one of those guys. He's a stud coming off the end. I think he'll have to put some more weight on going into the NFL, and I think he'll have to work on a couple of his finishing moves. I didn't watch a lot of the Volunteers this year, but I know he's one of the guys. James Pierce could be one of the picks at 17 for the Cincinnati Bengals, as well as, and I'm going to butcher this last name. Y'all forgive me. Lord, forgive me. And Princely, yo, forgive me if you see this video. Edge, Princely, Human Malin, Princely. He has good hand usage and leg drive, allow him to win early in the rep. He's stronger than he looks, and he's twitched up, very quick in his movements. I think Princely could be a pick at 17. Like I said, getting to that quarterback is going to be a necessity for the Cincinnati Bengals next season, which we're going to get to that. I think the Cincinnati Bengals will be in prime position to be picking a lot of defensive targets, a lot of defensive talent, good defensive talent in this draft, because I'm going to talk about that. Next is one of my favorites in the draft. Some injury history there is probably why my guy falling. He's probably the best offensive lineman in the draft. Josh Simmons, he only allowed just 2 pressures before he got hurt in week 7. So Josh Simmons, look at his tape. You're not fucking with him. He's like a Tyron Smith to my Dallas Cowboys. He's one of those guys coming in, Zach Martin. He's just one of those guys. I'm trying to think of the guy out there in Indianapolis on the offensive line that they were, he's one of those guys. Tell me in the comment section if y'all think of who I'm talking about. But yeah, Josh Simmons could definitely be a pick at 17, kind of shore up that offensive line. And overall, you want to keep Joe Burrow healthy. So if the doctors clear him, he could be a pick at 17. Next is going to be Luther Burden. Explosive. He's quick off the line, fantastic hands, and he excels after the catch. Big play waiting to happen. Luther Burden out of Missouri. He could be an excellent pickup at number 17 for you guys. Just another weapon for the Cincinnati Bengals, especially if they lose T. Higgins. They lose T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Luther Burden. There's no fall off. I can tell you that. I won't say that it's greater, but it won't be any fall off. Shouts out to T. Shouts out to Luther. There'll be no fall off. So that could be a big pickup for them if they get that guy at 17. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch that over to is the mock draft. Okay. Yes, sir. I'm only doing 3 rounds. All right. So when I do mock drafts, I like to be BPA, which is best player available, over what my needs are as a team, right? So when I'm drafting here for the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm really looking at the best player overall that I feel like could impact the Cincinnati Bengals overall than position of need. Okay. So I'm gonna pull up that right here and we're gonna get that moving. I already got it set up. Know what I'm doing. Cincinnati Bengals got the 3 rounds. We got it on fast. Let's get to 17 and see who's available. Okay, so no trades, not doing any trades, right? So we're going to take the board for what it is. So we're going to reject Cleveland. We're going to reject Washington. We're going to reject Tennessee. Let's look at who left the board. So Shador, Cam, they went 1-2. Will Campbell went to New York. Abdul Carter went to New England. Travis Hunter to Jacksonville. Ashton Genty to the Raiders. Mason Graham to the Jets. Ted McMillan to the Panthers. Mikael Williams to the Saints. James Pierce Jr. To Chicago. Tyler Warren to Denver. Luther Burden went to my Cowboys. I could not be mad with that. Tyler Booker went to Miami. Malachi Starks to Indy. Will Johnson to Falcons. Kelvin Banks Jr. to Seattle, which leaves Jalen Walker, Matthew Golden, Armand Membao, Derek Harmon that I mentioned. Let's see, they got safeties, Nick Amuwari, cornerback Siobhan Ravel, offensive lineman Josh Simmons is here. Okay, now I said I'm BPA, but let's see what the team needs are. Cornerback, offensive guard, defensive tackle, tight end, and center. Okay. Does that match up with having the best player that we could pick right here? Matthew Golden could have went ahead of Luther Burden. He's, by the time this video comes out, by the time the NFL Combine comes out, Matthew Golden is going to be right up there in the top 5 wide receivers for sure. He might be on some people's outside their top 5 right now, but not after the Combine. Just give that some time. That's still cooking, right? It's still early in the offseason right now. Now, Jalen Walker, he could be the pick here. He's played both as edge and off-ball linebacker. He projects to be primarily an edge. He has explosive movement, exceptional bend, technical skills, like strong hand placement and polished pass rushing moves. That's great. Make him a standout prospect. NFL teams will see his potential to dominate on the edge and believe they can maximize his talents at the next level. Jalen Walker, linebacker / edge. That could be a guy. Siobhan Ravel could be a guy for you guys. He's going to be one of your top cornerback prospects, right? So where do I feel like we need to go? All right. Just because if they lose T. Higgins, you got to go Matthew Golden right here. Matthew Golden is a polished and explosive wide receiver with the ability to impact games as a playmaker in multiple phases. He possesses excellent hands, reliable ball tracking skills, and the body control to excel in contested catch situations. His speed and agility allow him to generate yards after the catch and contribute in the run game. Golden is a scheme-diverse talent, but his lack of physicality as a run blocker may limit the way NFL teams can use him. You let go of T. Higgins, you need to replace that. And from my memory, I don't remember T. Higgins ever being a go block him guy, right? So I can see Matthew Golden going right here to the Cincinnati Bengals. There's some guys I left on the board right there that I absolutely loved, but you have to replace T. Higgins. You can't go backwards on the offense while you're trying to rebuild the offense. It just made too much sense to go Matthew Golden right there. We're not doing trades, so we bypass in New England. We bypass in Minnesota. Okay. Now, we have wide receiver. Now, it's time to get busy on that defensive end. We're done playing. All right. I think everything starts in the trenches. I believe everything starts in the trenches. Some will say edge. For me, it starts at defensive tackle. This has to be one of the best defensive tackles in the draft. Deion Walker is an intriguing interior defensive lineman with impressive length and natural pass rushing ability. While his height can affect pad level, he holds up well in contact and uses his hands effectively to create pressure. Though not the most explosive athlete, his relentless style makes him a disruptive force. Consistency and motor will be key to unlocking his full potential, but his upside as a pass rusher is undeniable. So basically they're saying he's lazy. But when he's on, he's on. So that has to be coached. Can it be coached? Hopefully it can be coached. Some guys are just inherently lazy. Some guys, there's nothing, you can hold the big lighter underneath their ass and they won't feel the heat. But I don't think that would be the case for Deion Walker. Deion Walker, his utilization at Kentucky was a heavy load. He played down in and down out. There wasn't really a lot of rotation on that defensive line in Kentucky. So to me, I'll give him a little grace and say, he knew what plays he was really trying to affect. And he didn't do a good job at acting on the times where he knew he wasn't going to have a high impact on that play because of either where the ball was going or, just due to tired. I know as fans, we don't like to hear that. People get tired, right? They make X amount of money. They got all this time to train and stay in shape. And even the people in shape got to stop and breathe. I mean, even the competitive runners stop running after a while to catch their breath. So Deion Walker, for me, long-winded as that was, would be the pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. We're bypassing Tampa Bay here. They want us to move back 3 spots. No. LA Rams, no. Now, in real life, I do see a situation where Cincinnati moves back once, maybe even twice in this draft because they have a lot of holes to fill. They have a lot of holes to fill in Cincinnati on that defense. So after they replace T. Higgins, I can see them even moving back in the second round to acquire higher draft picks in the later rounds. I can see that. I can see a world where Cincinnati actually executes that. And to me, that would be a smart move because the biggest necessity is replacing T. Higgins so that the offense doesn't take necessarily a step backwards, at least in a passing scheme. They have a lot to desire in room to improve in the running back room, right? But this is a heavy running back draft, and I feel like you can get a guy to pair with Chase Brown in the later rounds. But you need to replace T. Higgins. After that, it doesn't matter where the chips fall on defense. You need them. You need them. So we got a wide receiver. We got a defensive tackle. We're staying on one side of the ball right now. We're extremely focused on that. So we got our defensive tackle. Can we go linebacker edge? Barrett Carter, Clemson? Let's see. Barrett Carter has been in the NFL draft scope for a long time. That longevity brings more eyeballs on a more consistent basis, which in turn brings more opportunity for both praise and scrutiny. The issue is that no player is perfect. New names from nowhere often get highlighted only by their draft eligible campaign, and draftniks may only watch 3 games of their entire season. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, he's still a compact, explosive mover with an impressive finish rate in the open field despite his lackluster height. Additionally, he sets an awfully firm edge considering how much length he's giving up there. Unfortunately, he's not going to be our pick here. That's long-winded, and all I'm keep seeing is unfortunately. We're not going to waste our time on this video. Let's look at another edge real quick. Okay. Let's go real edge. Jared Ivey flashes as an impressive pass rush plan, but his heavy feet limit his ceiling. He can run through an opponent's chest with a long arm, but he can also win through the inside and outside shoulder with a bevy of proactive rush moves. Ivey would be higher on the board, but his slow processing speed and lack of reactive athleticism hurt his consistency as a run defender. Now, here's Shamar Turner. Shamar Turner is a disruptive and versatile defensive lineman with an ability to excel in multiple positions across the front. He combines a quick first step and impressive strength, allowing him to penetrate gaps and create consistent backfield pressure. Turner's hands usage and lateral movement make him effective against both the run and pass, while his motor and physicality enable him to shed blocks and pursue plays with intensity. His agility and athleticism for his size are notable, giving him the flexibility to line up inside or on the edge. Turner has a tendency to play with a high pad level at times, which cost him in leverage. Well, Shamar Turner, nobody's perfect. Ashton Gillette is a disruptive and high motor edge rusher with a strong combination of speed, power, and technique. He excels at getting off the line quickly, using his explosive first step to gain an advantage against blockers. Gillette's hand, fighting skill, and array of pass rushing moves allow him to consistently pressure the quarterback, while his agility and balance make him effective at the bending the edge. Okay, that's enough. I'm going with Ashton Gillette. Let me okay. Let me just say this. We got your defensive tackle. You got your wide receiver. This is only a 3-round mock. So I don't want the Cincinnati fans in the comments saying this is unrealistic. Now, in my mind, I'm saying edge. You got your DT, your edge. Now that line is what will give the guys in the back some more time. But that can be reversed. What if we went to cornerback instead of edge? We got the pressure coming in the middle of the defensive tackle. What if we got a cornerback? Let me take a quick look at that cornerback, because if not, I'm drafting Ashton Gillette and I'm running. Zy Alexander. Zy Alexander is a long, wiry cornerback with athleticism and fluidity to develop into a day 2 draft pick. The LSU defender shows solid movement skills and flashes upside in coverage, but refining his press technique and maximizing his length will be key to boosting his stock. With improved consistency, he has the tools to rise up draft boards. 6'1", 192. Dorian Strong is a skilled and instinctive cornerback who excels in man coverage, but is also more than competent in zone coverage schemes. He possesses fluid hips, quick feet, and strong closing speed, allowing him to stick with receivers and disrupt passing lanes. Strong's ball skills stand out as he consistently tracks the ball and makes plays on it in contested situations. He plays with physicality at the line of scrimmage, using his length effectively to disrupt routes. Strong's football IQ and anticipation enable him to read quarterbacks and jump routes, but can also make him vulnerable if he mistimes the play or double moves. Additionally, adding strength will allow him to handle bigger receivers and further enhance his game as a lockdown defender. I'm going Dorian Strong. I hope all you Cincinnati fans can understand why I did that after reading what I just read. You have somebody on the defensive line. You have somebody in second coverage. You have your wide receiver, Matthew Golden out of Texas, Deion Walker out of Kentucky, and Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the mock draft. And so next, what we're going to look at here is the 2025-2026 schedule for the Cincinnati Bengals. That was my little mock draft thing. I forgot to throw that up there, but there y'all go. All right. Now, hopefully everybody can see that. Okay. At home, you got the Ravens. You have the in-division guys, of course, in the Browns and the Steelers. Then you have New England, Jets, Jags, Bears, Lions, and you have the Cardinals. Then on the road, you have those same Ravens, the same Browns, the same Steelers. You have Buffalo, you have the Dolphins, the Broncos, the Packers, and the Vikings. Looking at the schedule, you can't have the same defense that you had last season. That's the first thing that come to mind. They're gonna have to play great defense. This is gonna be a harder schedule. I don't see any of those teams lying down. I see each one of those teams trying to be more than they were last season and looking to grow. I think you have some good quarterbacks you have to face. You got Chicago with a new head coach bringing a new philosophy out there. I think Arizona might be primed to kind of be wonders of the league next season. That's just a in the gut feeling. And your division is no slouch. That's hard enough to get out of your division, and it also starts with your division. You want to win the division. So for Cincinnati, looking at that schedule, they went 9-8. They went 3-3 in the division. Cincinnati, I think they go 4-2 in the division, and I can see them going 10-7. I can go 10-7, which is a game better than they did last season. I think that gets them into the playoffs. I think Joe Burrow does what it takes to at least win the first game. That would be my prediction for the 2025-2026 regular season for the Cincinnati Bengals. So y'all let me know in the comment section. Y'all make sure to show me some slack, which is subscribe, like, and comment. Any Cincinnati Bengals fans out there, if y'all enjoyed the video, let me know how y'all feel about how I broke down y'all offseason and what y'all going to do going into this regular season. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Yeah, we had to do close some things out real quick. But like I said, man, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for sure. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, as always, it was my pleasure, and thank you.